I made my wife's life a living hell after her affair. Should I finally forgive her? 2 years ago, my life shattered. My wife, the person I trusted most, betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. I've spent the time since trying to rebuild, but now I'm questioning if I can truly forgive her, or if it's even worth trying anymore. The turning point was a seemingly innocent text message. I was packing for a camping trip with my dad and our 2 boys, a trip we'd been planning for weeks. Out of the blue, my phone buzzed with a message from my wife. It said, "He's going to be gone with the boys all weekend for a camping trip." I wasn't supposed to see that message. It wasn't meant for me. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a mistake. But deep down, I knew. Her casual tone, the implications, it all pointed to something darker. She realized her error almost immediately and tried to play it off, but I didn't let on that I'd noticed. Instead, I made an excuse, told my dad to take the boys without me, and stayed behind to figure out what was going on. That weekend, I found out the truth. I followed her when she left the house, trailing her car to see where she was going. She didn't go far, just to a restaurant parking lot, where she met up with a man I later learned was her coworker. I watched them embrace, laughing and chatting like they didn't have a care in the world. They didn't see me, but I saw everything. I didn't confront her then. Instead, I spent the next 2 days gathering evidence, photos, screenshots of their messages, and anything else I could find. I even followed the man back to his house and discovered he had a family of his own, a wife, kids. By the time Sunday night rolled around, I felt hollow. I had everything I needed to confront her, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to. Monday morning, after the boys left for school, I sat her down at the kitchen table. I laid out all the evidence, the photos, the texts, the times and dates. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. She didn't deny it. She didn't try to explain it away. She just broke down, sobbing so hard I thought she might hyperventilate. She admitted to everything. The affair had been going on for 8 months, and she said she had no excuse other than that she felt lonely and unfulfilled. She begged me not to leave her, promising she would do whatever it took to make things right. I wanted to scream at her, to demand how she could do this to me, to us, to our boys. But all I could feel was exhaustion. Divorce seemed like the obvious choice, but the thought of splitting custody of our kids stopped me. Her family lived 2 states away, and if we divorced, she'd likely move back home. I didn't want to miss out on raising my boys, so I decided to stay. But there were going to be conditions. I wasn't going to let her just walk back into my good graces. If she wanted to rebuild our marriage, she'd have to prove it. After hours of research and reflection, I came up with a list of rules she'd have to follow. 1. She had to write a detailed confession of the affair, including every detail, and deliver it to her affair partner's wife. She also had to apologize to the woman for destroying her family. 2. She needed to quit her job and find employment elsewhere. There was no way she'd be working alongside her affair partner. 3. She had to share her location with me at all times via her phone. 4. A tracker was installed on her car. 5. All her passwords, email, social media, and banking were shared with me. 6. If she went out with friends, she had to check in every 30 minutes via FaceTime. 7. She was no longer allowed to see her best friend, who had known about and supported the affair. 8. Physical intimacy was off the table until I decided I was ready. She agreed to all of it without hesitation, saying she'd do anything to prove she was committed to our marriage. I, in turn, made changes too. She had complained about my weight and lack of fitness, so I threw myself into exercise. I lost 35 pounds and took up boxing, trying to rebuild not just my body, but my confidence. For 2 years, she followed every rule. She quit her job, distanced herself from her friends, and checked in with me religiously. I could see she was trying, but something inside me couldn't let go of the betrayal. Now she's starting to push back. She's asking for more freedom. Freedom to have lunch with coworkers, to hang out with friends, to attend events without constant check-ins. She says she feels like a prisoner in her own marriage. She's also been trying to rekindle our physical relationship. We haven't had sex since the affair, though she's made several attempts. Last week, she dressed up in lingerie, did her hair and makeup, and tried to seduce me. I wanted to respond, but I couldn't. Something inside me just froze. She ended up crying in the bathroom, and I felt like the worst husband alive. Her best friend's bachelorette party is coming up in Vegas, and though she hasn't outright asked to go, I know she wants to. This is the same friend who knew about the affair and encouraged it, so the idea of her going is like a punch to the gut. I'm torn. I don't want her to feel miserable, but I also don't know if I can fully trust her again. Every time I think about loosening the restrictions, That little voice in my head says, what if she does it again? Maintaining these rules is exhausting. I'm tired of being the warden of our marriage, constantly monitoring her every move, but I'm also terrified of what might happen if I let my guard down. I don't know what the right answer is. Do I loosen the reins and risk getting hurt again? Or do I keep things as they are and risk pushing her away for good? What I do know is that I miss the marriage we used to have. I miss trusting her, loving her without hesitation, and feeling like we were a team. I just don't know if that's something we can ever get back. Second story. My best friend tried to ruin my marriage, and I still don't know why. When I was 11, my life took a turn I could have never predicted. My family had just moved to a new country, and everything felt unfamiliar. That's when I met Mia, F29, introduced to me by my now sister-in-law. It wasn't just a fleeting childhood friendship. Mia and I grew up together, navigating the chaos of teenage years and adulthood side by side. She wasn't just a friend, she was family to me. Fast forward nearly 2 decades, and life seemed to have settled into a beautiful rhythm. I had a loving husband, Daniel, M31, a precious 2-year-old child, and a job that allowed me a decent work-life balance. Mia and I still shared parts of our lives, though we had different circles of friends and activities. It never crossed my mind that she could ever be capable of betrayal. On a typical work day, I'm at the office from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., with a quick 30-minute break where I'd grab a snack or, on occasion, visit Daniel's office nearby. Sometimes, work required me to travel to other cities, and I'd casually mention my plans to Mia during our conversations. Last Wednesday was supposed to be one of those travel days. However, due to a red alert for severe weather, my trip was canceled at the last minute. Daniel left the house at 6 a.m. to secure his business from potential flooding, but was back home by 7:30 a.m., making breakfast. By the time the storm arrived around 1 p.m., we were all safely inside. The 3 of us didn't leave the house until Friday. That Saturday, Mia and I went to our usual gym class. Afterward, she insisted we talk privately, so we sat in my car. Her words hit me like a freight train. I saw Daniel with another woman on Wednesday. They were making out in his car, and your son was in the back seat. For a moment, I was stunned into silence. But then, a flicker of clarity broke through the confusion. I was home all day Wednesday. Daniel had been with me and our child the entire time. Something wasn't adding up. Trying to stay calm, I asked Mia to confirm the day. "Are you sure it was this Wednesday?" I asked. She nodded emphatically, even repeating it multiple times. She claimed it happened around 11 a.m., during the height of the red alert. According to her, Daniel had been near his office, kissing a gorgeous blonde Barbie lookalike, all while our toddler sat in the car. I laid out the facts. I had been working from home, the weather was dangerous, and Daniel had no reason to be anywhere near his office. Yet Mia doubled down, adding unnecessary details to make her story seem convincing. That's when I realized she was lying, boldly and deliberately. I told her to leave, and she quickly fled. Back home, I shared everything with Daniel. He was as shocked as I was and immediately denied the accusations. He offered up his phone, his email accounts, even his car for inspection. I checked everything, and there was nothing remotely suspicious. The only secret I uncovered was that he secretly listened to a paranormal podcast. We decided to confront Mia together. After several attempts, she finally answered our call, sobbing. I asked her again why she lied, and she tried to backtrack, claiming she got the day wrong. Maybe it was Monday, she suggested. But her story still made no sense. On Monday, our child was at daycare, and Daniel and I had breakfast together during my work break. There was no time for him to pull off the elaborate scenario she described. At that point, Daniel firmly asked her to stop lying and explain herself. Mia continued to cry but offered no explanation. Instead, she hung up and blocked us both. The fallout was swift. I told our mutual friends what happened, and they were equally baffled. Several tried reaching out to Mia, but she either ignored them or blocked them too. One friend even contacted Mia's mother, who was just as stunned and had no idea what was going on. I've racked my brain trying to make sense of this. Was it jealousy? A misguided attempt to drive a wedge between Daniel and me? Mia had never shown any interest in Daniel. He didn't even like her that much. Their interactions over the years had been minimal and purely out of necessity. This betrayal has been gut-wrenching. Mia was there for me during some of the hardest moments in my life. I trusted her completely. She was one of the first people I told about my wedding, my pregnancy. She was my confidant. Now, she's shut herself off from everyone, leaving nothing but questions and a gaping hole where our friendship used to be. I don't know if I'll ever understand what drove her to this. But one thing is certain, The damage she caused isn't something I can easily forgive or forget. Third story. AITA for telling my brother his girlfriend can't come to Thanksgiving after her rude behavior. Thanksgiving has always been a time I look forward to, a chance to gather with family, share good food, and just enjoy each other's company. But this year, it feels more like walking into a battlefield. My name's Ethan, I'm 31, and I'm married to Ava, who's 30. We've been married for 6 wonderful years, and we've built a life we're proud of. But lately, that peace has been shaken, all thanks to my younger brother Ryan, 29, and his new girlfriend, Chloe, 27. When Chloe first came into the picture, she seemed charming and bubbly, someone who could easily fit into the family. But it didn't take long for Ava to notice a pattern in Chloe's remarks. Comments that, while masked as casual, always seemed to hit below the belt. Ava is a patient, level-headed person who rarely lets things bother her, so when she started telling me how uncomfortable Chloe made her feel, I knew something was off. The first incident happened at a summer barbecue a few months ago. Someone in the family asked the usual question about kids, when Ava and I might start a family. Before we could even answer, Chloe piped up with, "Oh, isn't it kind of selfish not to have kids? What else are you even saving for?" Her tone was light, almost joking, but the words stung. Ava smiled politely and let it slide, but later that night, she admitted to me how much the comment had hurt. I brushed it off, thinking maybe Chloe didn't realize how personal her words had been. Then came the second incident. We were at a family dinner, and the conversation turned to happiness. What makes people happy? How they define it. Chloe, swirling her wine glass, looked straight at Ava and said, "I'm honestly surprised you two are so happy without kids. You must be really good at being selfish." The room went quiet, and Ava's face dropped for just a second before she quickly composed herself. She didn't respond, choosing to steer the conversation elsewhere. I was furious, but decided to let it go to avoid making a scene. The third and most hurtful comment came during my dad's birthday party. Chloe found her way into a conversation about careers. Ava works part-time, something we both agreed on so she could focus on creative projects and prioritize her mental well-being. Chloe, with a smirk, said, "It's so cute that you're able to work part-time. Ryan and I both grind full-time and still manage to make it work. It's tough, but we're really building something." Her tone was condescending, dripping with judgment. Ava was livid, but chose not to engage, not wanting to ruin my dad's celebration. After that, Ava and I sat down for a serious conversation. She told me how much Chloe's words had affected her, how it felt like every interaction came with a thinly veiled jab at our choices. It broke my heart to see Ava, usually so confident, questioning herself because of someone else's judgment. With Thanksgiving approaching and us hosting this year, I decided I had to put my foot down. I called Ryan and told him Chloe wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. I explained how her comments had hurt Ava and how I didn't want that kind of negativity in our home during the holidays. Ryan immediately blew up. He accused me of being dramatic and said Chloe was just being honest. He insisted Ava was overreacting and claimed I was making a mountain out of a molehill. He ended the call by saying, "If Chloe isn't invited, then I'm not coming either." That hit me harder than I expected, but I stood firm. Now my parents are involved. My mom thinks I'm overreacting and should let Chloe come to keep the peace. She's always been softer on Ryan, the youngest, and tends to overlook his faults. My dad hasn't said much, but I suspect he agrees with my mom. Ava feels guilty, even though she's the one who's been hurt by all of this. She told me she appreciates me standing up for her, but doesn't want to be the reason the family is at odds. The way I see it, I'm not trying to cause drama. I just want to protect my wife from feeling disrespected in her own home. Thanksgiving should be about gratitude, love, and creating good memories. I can't see how Chloe's presence, with her history of hurtful comments, would add anything positive to the day. Ryan sees it as me choosing sides, but to me, this is about setting boundaries and standing up for what's right. So, am I the bad guy for telling my brother his girlfriend can't come? Or should I have let her join, even if it meant risking Ava feeling judged and uncomfortable again?